Hello dear students, let's begin with chapter 2 of class 7th maths. Chapter is fraction and decimals. We have already learnt about fractions and decimals in earlier classes. So let's begin with fractions. As everyone know, fractions are numbers that represent a part of the whole. A fraction is divided into a numerator and a denominator, where the denominator represents the total number of equal parts into which the whole is divided. On the screen, you can see a picture of a pizza. The first pizza is divided into 6 equal parts, while another one is divided into 2 equal parts. Let's study about the different type of fractions. The first one is a proper fraction, in which the numerators are always less than the denominators. As you can see on the screen, there are a lot of examples, 2 by 3, 4 by 9, 3 by 10. In all the cases, the numerators are less than the denominators. Next, we have an improper fractions, in which the numerators are either equal or more than the denominators. As shown in the examples, 4 by 3. 4 is greater than 3. Okay, moving on. We have another kind of fraction which is known as like fraction. So those fractions which have the same denominator as shown in the example, like 3 by 8, 5 by 8 or 17 by 8, all these fractions have the same denominator as 8. Then we have unlike fractions. Fractions with different denominators as shown in the example 1 by 2 and 1 by 5. Both of them have different denominators. Then we have equivalent fractions. They can be defined as fractions with different numerators and denominators that represent the same value or proportion of the whole. You can very well see in the example, one whole has been divided into 2 equal parts. So each part is 1 by 2 and 1 by 2. Further, 1 by 2 has been again divided into 2 equal parts. So it will become 2 by 4. If you reduce 2 by 4 in its lowest term, then it will again turn out to be 1 by 2. So these are those fractions which represent the same value or proportion of the whole. Equivalent fractions can be formed by multiplying or dividing the numerator and the denominator by the same number. For example, if you see on the screen, 1 upon 2 is the given fraction. If I multiply the numerator and denominator by 2, I get another equivalent fraction, that is 2 by 4. Because if I reduce 2 by 4 again, dividing it by 2, I can get the original fraction 1 by 2. So in this way, many equivalent fractions can be formed. Now let's begin with addition and subtraction of fractions. Addition and subtraction of fractions can take place when the fractions are like or unlike. Let's see how. Let's begin how to add like fractions, means those fractions which are having the same denominator. It is quite easy and we have done it earlier also. We need to simply add or subtract the given numerators while the denominator remains the same. You can see there are two examples for addition and subtraction. 3 upon 7 minus 2 upon 7. As the denominators are same, so we will simply subtract the numerators and the answer will be 1 by 7. The same goes for addition of like fractions. For example, 1 by 5 added to 2 by 5, the answer will be 3 by 5. Let's begin how to do addition and subtraction when the fractions are unlike. Means they are not having the same denominators. So you need to convert them first into like fractions. As you can see the example on the screen, we have to find the difference between 7 upon 8 and 3 upon 4. So these are unlike fractions because the denominators are not same. We need to convert them into like fraction first. So I need to change the fraction 3 by 4 having a denominator 8. I will multiply 4 by 2. Similarly, the numerator also gets multiplied by 2. So it becomes 6 by 8. Now 7 upon 8 and 6 upon 8 are both like fractions. So the same rule is applicable. We will only find the difference between the numerator and the denominator remains the same. So if I subtract 6 from 7, the difference is 1 and the denominator is 8 the same. The fraction becomes 1 upon 8. It is applicable for both addition and subtraction of unlike fractions. As we are through with addition and subtraction of fractions, let's begin with multiplication of fractions. So multiplication of fractions, there are two categories. We can multiply a whole number by a fraction or we can multiply a mixed fraction by a whole number. You can see multiplication of a whole number by a fraction. The example taken here is 3 times 1 by 6. That means out of 3 wholes, only 1/6 part is shaded. So 3 is already a whole number, so the fraction will be 3 upon 1. You will simply multiply the numerators and the denominators. So if I multiply 3 by 1, I will get 3 and 1 by 6, I will get 6 only. The answer is 3 by 6. You will reduce 3 by 6 into the lowest term. So the final answer will be 1 by 2. Now we need to know how to multiply a mixed fraction by a whole number. So there are simple rules. Just convert a mixed number into an improper fraction. Multiply the numerators followed by the denominators and if required, simplify the fraction. That means reduce the fraction into the lowest term. So the example taken here to show the multiplication of a mixed number by a whole number is 3 whole 3 by 8 times 4. So you will convert 3 whole 3 by 8 into an improper fraction by multiplying 3 and 8 together, adding 3 of the numerator, you will get 27 by 8. If you multiply it by 4, you can see 4 and 8. 4 is a part of a numerator and 8 is a part of a denominator. So they are going in the same table, that is 4. 1 times 4 is 4 and 2 times 4 is 8. The fraction becomes 27 upon 2, which is clearly seen here that it is an improper fraction. Whenever you get an answer in an improper fraction, you need to convert that improper fraction into a mixed number. Fraction as an operator of. The word of represents multiplication. With an example, as shown on the screen, you can see I traveled 2 blocks out of 6 blocks on my trip to school. So how much total distance have I covered? The total number of blocks was 6 and I have covered 2 out of it. So I have covered 2 upon 6th of the distance of the school. Another example taken here is 1 upon 4 multiplied by 3 by 4. So multiply means of. You can even write this as 1 upon 4 groups of 3 by 4. Let's understand the concept of operator with the help of a word problem. The word problem shown on the screen says, Carlos spent 1 upon 4 hours doing his maths homework. Truly, he loves maths. He spent 1 upon 4 of his time practicing his multiplication facts. So the key word here is of. Of means multiplication. We will be multiplying a mixed number by another fraction in order to get the answer of this word problem. Now, another concept is multiplication of a fraction by a fraction. So, you can see the rule implies that you have to multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and if you get a fraction which is not in its lowest term, then you need to reduce the fraction to its lowest term. It is as simple as that. You can see here 2 by 5 is being multiplied by 3 by 4. So when I multiply both the numerators 2 and 3, I get the product as 6. Then I will multiply both the denominators. I get the product of 5 and 4 as 20. 6 upon 20 is not in its lowest term. Both of them are divisible by 2. So in the table of 2, 6 goes 3 times and 20 goes 10 times. So the lowest fraction here is 3 by 10. It is as simple as that. Just multiply the numerators and denominators and then reduce it to the lowest term. Reciprocal of a number, or rightly called as the inverse of a fraction. That means if you find the product of a original fraction along with the reciprocal, the product should always be 1. I've taken an example of 3 upon 4. The inverse of 3 upon 4 is 4 upon 3. If I find the product of 3 upon 4 and 4 upon 3, it is 1. So inverse means the denominator becomes the numerator and the numerator becomes the denominator. So the inverse of 3 upon 4 is 4 upon 3. Finally, we have landed to the last operation of fractions, that is division of fractions. There are 3 categories in that: when you divide a whole number by a fraction, when you divide a fraction by a whole number, and when you divide a fraction by a fraction. Division of a whole number by a fraction. In the example given here is 5 is the whole number and the fraction here is 30 upon 36. So in order to convert a whole number into a fractional form, I will mention here 5 as 5 by 1, taking 1 by default as the denominator. When you can see a division sign in between, when it gets converted into a multiplication sign, the fraction followed by it gets inversed. That means we write the reciprocal of the given fraction, which will be 36 upon 30. Now we will find the product if any number, one being in the numerator and the other being in the denominator, is divisible, that is they are going in the same table, we will reduce them to the lowest term. As you can see here, 5 and 30 are both divisible by 5. So the fraction comes out to be 36 upon 6, which is not again a reduced form of a given fraction. So we will see that 6 and 36 are going in the table of 6. So the lowest term here is 6, which is again a whole number, or in fraction if we want to say, it will be 6 upon 1. Let's take another case when we are dividing a fraction by a whole number. On the screen the example taken is 2 upon 3, which is being divided by 4. In order to convert 4 into a fraction, I will take 1 by default as the denominator. So once we need to solve this, the division sign will again change into multiplication sign and the fraction followed by it will get inverse. That means 4 upon 1 will become 1 upon 4, or I can say it has 1 upon 4 is the reciprocal of 4 upon 1. Now we will simply multiply the numerators and denominators, and if they are in the lowest term, it's fine. If they are not in the lowest term, we will reduce the given fraction into the lowest term. Let's take another case when we are dividing a fraction by a whole number. On the screen the example taken is 2 upon 3, which is being divided by 4. In order to convert 4 into a fraction, I will take 1 by default as the denominator. So once we need to solve this, the division sign will again change into multiplication sign and the fraction followed by it will get inverse. That means 4 upon 1 will become 1 upon 4, or I can say it has 1 upon 4 is the reciprocal of 4 upon 1. Now we will simply multiply the numerators and denominators, and if they are in the lowest term, it's fine. If they are not in the lowest term, we will reduce the given fraction into the lowest term. Moving on, we have division of a fraction by a fraction. So the example taken here is 1 by 4 divided by 3 by 8, both are fractions. So the fraction which is followed by the division sign, when we will convert this division sign into a multiplication sign, we will write the inverse of 3 upon 8, that is 8 upon 3. We will simply reduce them to lowest term, but the condition is one number should be in the numerator and the other should be in the denominator. So we will find the product of the numerators and denominators, which is 1 by 2 is 2 and 3 times 1 is 3 again. It is a proper fraction 2 upon 3 because the numerator is less than the denominator. So we need not convert it into a mixed number. Decimal fractions. As the name states, so those special kind of fractions which have the denominator as 10, 100 or thousands, or in multiples of 10 are known as decimal fractions. You can see on the screen here 8 by 10, 4 whole 2 by 10, 5 whole 12 by 100. All these are examples of decimal fractions. Now moving on, we will be learning certain operations with the help of these decimal fractions. Now we will learn how to multiply or divide the given fractions by 10, 100 and 1000. The rule is simple. If you are multiplying any number, then the value will increase. So the decimal never moves. It is the digit which moves from left to right or right to left. So when we are multiplying by 10, 100 and 1000, the digits are moving from right to left, which will certainly increase the value of a number. If it is being multiplied by 10, only one digit will shift from right to left. By 100, two digits will shift from right to left. And if 1000, then three digits will shift from right to left. The inverse happens in case of division when we are dividing it any number by 10, 100 or 1000. The value will decrease. So the digit will shift from left hand side to right hand side. In case of 10, only one digit will shift. In case of 100, two digits will shift from left hand side to right hand side, and in case of 1000, three digits will shift from left hand side to right hand side. So in this way, it is very simple to see how we can multiply or divide a given decimal number by 10, 100 and 1000. Multiplication of decimal numbers. Now we will learn multiplication of a decimal number by a decimal number. Let's see how to multiply a decimal number by a decimal number. As shown on the screen, you can see 2.34 is being multiplied by 1 by 2. Forget about the decimals. Just find the product of 234 by 12. Once you find the product of 234 by 12, you need to put 3 digits. You need to put a decimal sign after 3 digits from the right hand side. So the answer will be 2.808. Now the question arises, why 3 digits? Because there are 2 decimal numbers in the first number, means 2 numbers after the decimal in the first number, and 1 digit after the decimal in the second number. So in totality, there are 3 digits which are after the decimal number. So from your right hand side, you need to leave the 3 digits and put a decimal sign. It is as simple as that. Let's see how to multiply a decimal number by a decimal number. As shown on the screen, you can see 2.34 is being multiplied by 1 by 2. Forget about the decimals. Just find the product of 234 by 12. Once you find the product of 234 by 12, you need to put 3 digits. You need to put a decimal sign after 3 digits from the right hand side. So the answer will be 2.808. Now the question arises, why 3 digits? Because there are 2 decimal numbers in the first number, means 2 numbers after the decimal in the first number, and 1 digit after the decimal in the second number. So in totality, there are 3 digits which are after the decimal number. So from your right hand side, you need to leave the 3 digits and put a decimal sign. It is as simple as that. Let's learn about division of decimal numbers. So we have already done division of decimal numbers by 10, 100 and 1000. Now we will be doing division of a decimal number by a whole number. Dividing with decimals works exactly like regular long divisions, with just one difference. That is, you need to place a decimal point in the question directly above the decimal point in the dividend, and then follow the normal traditional method of dividing. Just go on as usual and work around the decimal point, just as a normal division method. The example taken here is 0.84, which is a decimal number, and the dividend, divided by 3, which is a non-decimal number. So in the table of 3, which is what goes less than 8 is 2 times, that is 6. You find the difference of 8 and 6, you get 2. Taking 4 forward, you get 24. Then in the table of 3, 24 goes 8 times. So the answer here is 0.28. Last but not the least, let's learn how to divide a decimal number by a decimal number. As you can see here in example, 9.28 is the dividend which is being divided by a decimal number, that is 0.4. In any case, we cannot divide unless and until we have a decimal point in the divisor. So the simple trick says you need to get rid of this decimal point. There is only one digit after the decimal, so I will be multiplying the divisor by 10. On the same note, I will multiply the dividend also by 10. So the dividend will become 92.8 because the value will increase on multiplying by 10, and the divisor will get rid of the decimal number and it will become a whole number 4. Now you will perform a regular long division method which we have learnt earlier, that is, place a decimal point in the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend and perform the long division method as normal. Now I will divide 4 by 9. So the 4 times 2 is 8, which is less than 9. So the remainder will be 1. I will take 2 from the top. Now the answer is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. You will place a point above the point, reiterating, I need to place the decimal point in the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend. And finally, I will get 8, which is left out. So 2 times 4 is 8. The quotient here is 23.2. I have given another example in the next slide so that you can practice the concept thoroughly. In this slide, you can see that 0.75 is the dividend and 0.15 is the divisor. So you need to get rid of this decimal point in the divisor. There are 2 digits after the decimal, so you will multiply both the numbers by 100. You will get 75 as the dividend and 15 as the divisor. Now perform your regular division method and you will be able to find the answer. A quick recap. To recapitulate what we have learned in chapter 2, fractions and decimals. We have learned addition and subtraction of like and unlike fractions, followed by multiplication of fractions by a whole number and by a mixed number, then multiplication of a fraction by a fraction. Same goes with division, division of a whole number by a fraction, division of a fraction by a whole number, and then division of a fraction by a fraction. Then we move on to decimal numbers. We have learned multiplication of and division of decimal numbers by 10, 100 and 1000, multiplication of a decimal number by a decimal number, and we have also learned how to divide a whole number by a decimal number, followed by how to divide a decimal number by a whole number. Thank you so much.